Welcome, and a special welcome to those of you who've come beyond the United States and Canada. And I would also like to thank FX Street, Maud and Vicky in particular. These people have demonstrated over time a commitment to the long-term educational needs of traders, and that's why I'm here. It's through their desire to be able to add a trader psychology element to their training programs to what they offer is that they recruited me, and here I am. So this just kind of goes to show you where these people are at. You know, there comes a moment when a trader realizes that it's their psychology that stands in the way of trading success. And this presentation is for those people. You're going to be learning a lot about trader psychology in this presentation, and about particularly what blocks you from experiencing the success that you know is possible and what you can do about it. Especially, you're going to be learning why you keep doing the same stupid things over and over and over again despite knowing how to trade. You know that feeling you get when you do your review and you wonder, what in the world were you thinking? How could that have just gotten past you? Well, you're going to find out today. Fundamentally, you're going to learn how you go about creating long-term change and build a mindset for successful trading. You will learn that body, brain, and mind are deeply connected, and that no long-term change is going to occur until you learn how to observe, disrupt, and reorganize biologically based belief systems. You're going to hear that again and again. There is no magic wand here, my friends. There are skills and tools to learn that allow you to transform the mindset that you bring to the uncertainty of trading though. This is a work that teaches you how to manage the power of your biology and mind for long-lasting change. For those of you still chasing a quick fix, this isn't it. This is about developing the skills and tools needed for change. And what you will notice about this process you're going to be exposed to is that it's cohesive. One set of skills leads and integrates into the next. And by the way, this webinar is also an introduction to the upcoming 4-week course, Developing Trader's State of Mind. And there you'll be simply learning how to actually do it. Okay? And friends, this is my premise. You are trading your beliefs about the management of uncertainty, and your trading account is going to tell you exactly where it's at. And here's the question that I ask you to sit with. Do you have the passion for trading that gives you the motivation to change self-limiting beliefs that limit your capacity as a trader? And if you do you really want to develop the mind that trades your methodology? It is this element that is most missing in trading. And this is also what this webinar addresses. And also the 4-week course is going to teach you the actual skills and tools. But I tell you what, let's get into this. Here's the deal. The mindset that brought you into trading is not the mindset that's going to produce success in trading. Fundamentally, what happens is people get into trading and they basically have a vision of both financial and personal freedom. And it goes something like this: I want to be worth my weight in gold. Well, if you hold a vision like that, a better question is this, a more powerful question is this. And this is a game-changing question. Who do I need to become to make my vision a reality? It's not your methodology that trades. It is your current mindset that trades your methodology. This is the piece that we all have to get into. And let's take a look how this really integrates into trading, okay? Trading, fundamentally, is 3 elements that work together in synchronicity. One is your platform. You know, all that investment, all those charts, all those things that give you up-to-the-minute ability to really see the markets and to move and take action and get your fill orders in and boom, like that. The second is your methodology. You know, that's how you manage risk. If you follow that methodology without emotion, then what happens is you know the probability of success is on your side, not the casino's. However, the part that traders neglect usually for 4 or 5 years, is this. They're trading psychology. They do not manage, they do not build, they do not nurture the very state of mind, the very mindset that they bring to their methodology. And without building the mind to harness the power of your system and method, you stay in wishful thinking, like the guy who said, I want to be worth my weight in gold, but he didn't know how to ask a more powerful question. So, now that we know that, let's actually look at this. What keeps you from doing this? The first thing is you have to step out of self-deception. This is the hardest part in the world. And you'll know self-deception when for several years now you have been tweaking your system, you have been tweaking your platform, you have been tweaking your methodology, looking for discipline out there in methodology, out there in platform. When in truth, discipline is an inherent part of yourself that you have to awaken and to build into a powerful part of the self. Then you have to take full responsibility for your trading performances. You have to build a state of mind that produces the performances that you're talking about. Then, this is where it starts getting more dicey, is you have to commit to changing your self-limiting beliefs that lie behind your performance. And once you realize, yes, I got to do that, then you start asking a fundamental question. You have to find a process of change that really works, really, really works. Not just gives you a cathartic moment where you feel good, but where you really, truly bring a different mindset to your trading room that uses your methodology. And this is what we're going to look at now. There are 5 essential skills that I teach required to transform mind and performance. The first one is emotional regulation of fear and impulse. Why? Because until you get that under control, you don't get to mind. You get hijacked long before you even get to mind. The second one, you have to develop a tool called mindfulness to be able to get at the mind and be able to understand what this stuff mind is, because it's not what you think it is. I'll be showing you that a little later. Then, I want you to notice the cohesive and how one skill leads in the other here. Then you start becoming aware of the self-limiting internal dialogue. That may sound like gibberish to you, but the truth is that every one of you has faced it wherever your problem is in trading, where for whatever reason you're here today. When you're in that moment, whether or not it's looking for entry points, whether or not it's being in the trade that's going against you, or chickening out and taking short profits, what happens is you will discover that there is a powerful internal dialogue going on inside your mind, and it's not your thoughts. Those thoughts have you. That has to change if you're going to become a successful trader. And it changes by 4th skill. You begin to disrupt the internal dialogue, and you start bringing empowered elements of your personality from out of your awareness into your awareness. My friends, in the same way that fear is present with you inherently as a human being, so is discipline. The 5th one is you start literally becoming intentional about the mindset that you bring to trading. You know what's possible. You know you no longer have to bring a fear-based mindset into trading. You know with intentionality, with the skills and the tools that you learn, that you can bring a mindset built around discipline, built around impartiality, built around patience, built around courage to interact with the uncertainty of trading. Makes all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world. And by the way, these are the very skills taught in the Developing Trader's State of Mind course. The very skills, except it's more experiential rather than intellectual. So I'll tell you what. Let's look at this first skill. Emotional state management. First of all, before we get to emotional state management, let's define an emotion. And here, we've got to step out of psychology, and we're going to step into neurobiology. An emotion, to a neurobiologist, to a person studying your brain, is this. It's any triggering that creates a deviation in a standard, familiar, sensorial pattern that the brain has already established. Translated. If you like certainty, okay, and what brain doesn't, and you're looking at uncertainty, that right there is a deviation from a standard, familiar pattern, and what's going to trigger is an emotion. And for most of you, It will be fear and hesitation. So, what happens though? In the lack of management of fear, this is actually what keeps you prisoner to losing or to very small performance. And I would consider, by the way, I know a lot of people would say, I don't need psychology. And the problem is they're trading 1-2 contracts. They have a really small size. And what happens is anytime they try to go above that, things start blowing up on them. And yet they don't know about psychology's contribution to that problem. That is just as big a problem as not being able to get in the trade in the first place. Fundamentally, what happens is fear hijacks objective thinking. Until you regulate it, it's going to hijack it, period. That creates a fear-based herd mentality. Suddenly you become a stampeding herd of cattle. Then, you and your trading become bonded to the 95% of the trading pack driven by fear, and by the way, being driven over the side of a cliff by people who know how to do it. Then you start making trading decisions outside of your trading plan based on avoidance or impulse rather than impartiality. The very thing that your methodology would have given you. Then, in the stampede, you transfer your hard-earned capital to the 5% of traders who are disciplined and impartial. Understand this. Beliefs cannot be changed until emotion is regulated. So, a little more about emotions, because this is the key, and most people have ignored it, and until you get this piece, there is no growing. The elements of an emotion, one is arousal. That's the body getting all cranked up, and you will know that by your breathing, you will know by your heartbeat, you will know by the tension that grows, and just the sense of pressure going on inside. And ultimately what happens, if that arousal gets to a particular point, it is like turning the key on an ignition, and all of a sudden the engine starts and you are swept away. Arousal. Motivation. That's what the emotion is telling you to do. Okay? It's telling you, and it's going to be avoid, attack, or approach. That's when you hesitate. That's when you impulsively trade, or when that stay on the sideline. Meaning, this is a self-limiting belief that gets associated with the emotion and becomes fused. It becomes your identity. And we'll get on that a little bit more. Feeling. This is where most people confuse feeling with emotion all the time. They're massively different. Feeling is simply the subjective experience of the emotion that you're in. Okay? If it's fear, you have that rule, oh my God. That's the feeling. It's good to let you know it's there, to be able to label it and to say, okay, I know it's there. I don't have to avoid it. I'm ready to go. And temperament. We're not going to be discussing that. That's genetic predisposition, and we can't do anything about that. What you need to grasp is this. Emotion is biological. It takes over your psychology unless managed. Okay? Now, let's take this from the drawing board, and what does it actually look like in trading? Let's take a look at the process of fear as an emotion in trading. First thing, you're sitting there, say watching setups, and you're looking at entry points, and the thing is you're sitting there and you realize that you're about to risk capital. All of a sudden what happens is your body triggers to uncertainty as fear, and the arousal starts. Your body is readying for the action of avoidance of a perceived threat, loss of capital. Then all of a sudden you start noticing that there's short, shallow breathing that cuts off oxygen supply to the brain. That right there is one way fear contaminates thinking, is suddenly impartiality requires oxygen in the brain to be able to think clearly, and suddenly you're breathing in such a way that disrupts oxygen supply to the brain. You're already cooked. Then what you notice as arousal goes on is that the body tenseness, it's preparing for flight. You start noticing that racing heart. And this is where, my friends, that rational thinking, so necessary to trade effectively, is absolutely swept away by the ticking time bomb of fearful thinking. Now, what's interesting is that meaning becomes fused into an emotion. At the base of all fear are one of these 4 deep meanings about self. These are really hard for traders to acknowledge self, but this is to change the self, you have to be able to recognize this and own it so that you can change it. One, a sense of inadequacy. I'm never good enough. I'm never going to learn. Oh, woe is me. Not mattering. I just can't seem to pray. You know something? I'm never, it's not going to happen for me. Unworthy. I'm not deserving to win. My performance is proof of my unworthiness. Powerlessness. This is a sense of just either giving up or being a horse in a burning barn, going wild and crazy. These are the deepest meanings that become attached to emotion. Now remember this. All threat to the emotional brain is interpreted as fear of death. All other fears come out of these fears. And you cannot change meaning without emotional regulation. Even when you're attacking things, you're actually attacking from fear. You're out of your powerlessness. A bully does not attack because they're big and strong. It's the way they feel they can be powerful. So, now let's take a look at emotional motivation. It's the avoidance of the perceived threat. If you hesitate, you're running, you're hiding, you're freezing, you're submitting, if you can't get into trade, or if you're getting out of the trade too soon. That's the avoidance. Attack. That's, instead of avoiding the threat, what you're doing is you're attacking the threat. Anger, and what you do is you see this in impulsive or revenge trading where you got to make up for prior losses, and you're just going to get angry and you're going to go after them. Boy, what a good way to run off the side of a cliff. Or, as you'll learn with mindfulness, approach. You approach the perceived threat. You begin openness, and you begin to trade from a mindful position where you realize that the market doesn't care one way or the other. It's all your beliefs that you're projecting on the market that you're looking at. This is when powerful things can happen. So, when we put all this stuff together, let's actually see what happens with your brain engaging with your psychology, okay? Here it goes. This is what keeps you repeating the same stupid things over and over and over again, despite the fact you know how to trade when you're in your right mind. This is how you get out of your right mind into your fear-based mind. Your brain is a negative assessment machine. It assumes harmful intent bias. That's just the way your brain's organized, okay? It assumes the saber-toothed tiger is out there everywhere, and it cannot distinguish between a psychological threat or discomfort and a biological threat. Can't do it. You have to make that distinction. Your brain does not distinguish between uncertainty from fear. To it, anything that's uncertain is ambiguous. Anything that's ambiguous is fearful. And so it's going to jump out. So it doesn't necessarily organically, genetically, it's not that way. Then the brain is going to organize you to avoid uncertainty and move toward, guess what? Certainty, comfort zone. Unfortunately, you can't trade that way. Then the brain forms self-fulfilling patterns based on the avoidance of fear and uncertainty. Ooh, do you see what you have to overcome to trade well? The patterns then go into automatic and they dominate your state of mind. You don't even know this is going on. It is out of awareness by this time. It's just you and your thoughts. You don't realize that these thoughts are really the voice of your self-limiting beliefs. And suddenly you start finding what you fear. Suddenly what you do is you trade from avoidance or greed rather than from calm and partiality, so necessary to great trading. This is the you that trades. Fear is not going to go away, but you can use it. You can learn more about it. Now let's take a look at this glitch, this terrible glitch that keeps people from achieving their potential in trading. It's back to this uncertainty, certainty stuff. Your brain doesn't distinguish fear from uncertainty. Here's the pathway. Uncertainty leads to ambiguity. And there's no right choice. Things are iffy. That leads to confusion. The brain does not tolerate confusion whatsoever. Generates fear, and suddenly, unless you can emotionally regulate self, what happens is fear takes over mind, and a fearful mind starts trading with the uncertainty of the markets, and that is where you're killed. This has to be decoupled, or your trading is compromised. Your socially linked emotional brain will herd and stampede, and traders will stay stuck in this glitch that takes over psychology of performance until you do emotional regulation. So, what is emotional regulation? Here, first it's the beginning of a journey. And what it does initially is you interrupt the arousal and the motivation elements of fear. Look at that sense of attack, avoid, and that sense of getting pumped up, you interrupt it. And that gives you the capacity to manage the emotion so it doesn't sweep away rational thinking. And breathing and relaxation are the keys to emotional regulation. And training relaxation response is enormously impossible. It's just absolutely essential. And what I want to do, take a moment here, is what I want you to grasp. This is work done by Herbert Benson during the 1980s called the relaxation response. And ultimately, every emotion, fear in particular, has a breathing signature associated with it. And it's going to be either stop breathing or very shallow top of the lung breathing. And what happens is when you're into it, you are fanning the fire. You're putting on gasoline onto the emotion. However, if you disrupt it, if you start doing diaphragmatic breathing, you disrupt an element that fear has to have to maintain itself. So, fear also has a tension signature. You will find yourself very tense. If you volitionally begin to relax the body, that also disrupts the ramp up in the arousal before it takes over. And as taught in this course, this is a skill that can help you manage fear. I've actually known people who actually were once they got this small part, it totally changed their trading. However, I don't see it that way because fundamentally, I look at it this way. By itself, emotional regulation is not game changing. It is the skill necessary to get the door of mind. Essentially, calming the body does in fact still the mind. And then, rather than having out-of-control emotions hijacking thinking, the mind can be approached calmly. This is an essential thing. And this is how we reach the second essential skill. The second essential skill is mindfulness. With emotion calmed, you can approach mind. It's no longer a horse in a burning barn. Mindfulness becomes the window through which you observe the mind. It's a tool that's used to reorganize the self. So, what actually is this, okay? What is mindfulness? It's becoming aware of the embedded biases, self-limiting beliefs, and thoughts that drive your perception without your even knowing it. It's waking up to just how powerful these self-limiting beliefs that have gone on automatic really are. Second, it is the recognition that you and your thoughts are not the same. You do not have thoughts, my friends. Thoughts have you. And ultimately what you'll learn in mindfulness is that your thoughts actually are an electrical energy occurring between neurons. That's what thought is. What's more important is who controls thought. That will be your self-limiting beliefs that have been given voice by your thoughts. Developing of an observing self as a witness to the coming and going of thought is the real key because you become detached from it and you observe it not as who you are but as something going on within you that you become fused to. And this is what frees you from your historical patterns. This is the place that it goes. And when you do that, you begin to recognize something about identity, this thing we keep calling ourselves I. I have these thoughts. Our brain adapts us to the historical circumstances to which we're born. That's what brains do. Before you can think, your sense of self is organized for survival, not thrival, around these identity influencing factors. Generally that's called family of origin and parents and community. They go on automatic and we become blind to them. We just assume they're right. Those assumptions become beliefs. We do not have beliefs and thoughts, my friend. They have us. And worse or better is that you trade your beliefs. They have to change, particularly the beliefs about self and uncertainty, and your management of uncertainty have to change. There is no certainty, but you can manage uncertainty. We use mindfulness as a tool to bring our self-limiting beliefs into the light of awareness. Now, let's really look at mindfulness as a tool, because all of a sudden we have a tool where we can look at mind. rather than just having thoughts whirling by at 1,000 miles a second or not even noticing them, we know that we now can bring beliefs into awareness and become aware of them as not the truth, but simply assumptions that have become wired into us and have produced habits of perception. Let's put it this way. Have you ever had the experience of reviewing your trading day and wondering why you traded the way you did, completely contrary to your trading plan? The answer, my friend, is your mindlessness. As you wake up, you can begin to actually see, oh, this is when I got swept away by fear. This is how I began to be controlled. All of a sudden, I went to impulse or hesitation. I didn't stay in another organization of self that could have been more effective. Mindfulness is a tool. Then, let's look at skill 3. If we're going to be looking for the historical conversation, let's start discovering. This is the hidden thought life of your beliefs. Who in here has ever experienced what this guy is experiencing? You are so stupid. I made the same mistake again and again. I'm never going to make it. That is the internal dialogue. It doesn't have to be anything mysterious. It's just your thoughts running rampant in your mind without you having any management of them whatsoever, and actually believing in your mindlessness that these thoughts are in fact you. The truth is no, they're not. They're just simply the voice of beliefs that have taken on habituation, and they're just driving the creation of your life. They don't have to, though. So, if we're going to observe the internal dialogue, let's make some distinctions, okay? It's not internal chatter. It's an internal dialogue. It's the difference between noise running around in your mind and something of very serious substance where you had better know what's going on inside mind. You better, in particular, notice what's causing the destructive tendencies in your trading. If you ignore them, if you avoid them, they will continue doing the damage. Self-limiting beliefs and the emotions that they're tied to are given voice in your historical dialogue. That is the power of mindfulness. You become an observer and you start spotting this stuff and you begin to see why you keep doing the same crazy thing over and over again. My friends, you were born into this, you adapt to this, you come to believe who it is. But it's not you. It's just an organization of the self. Now, the question is, how do you tune in to the self-limiting beliefs of your internal dialogue? Well, I'm going to give you a hint. I'm going to give you a descriptor of the typical set range of dialogue that goes on within a trader's mind. And what I want you to do is, I go through this, I want you to think of your biggest problem in trading, the one that just absolutely wipes you out. Okay? And I can tell you there are 3 of them, okay? That are the vast majority. It's literally looking at entry points where you're going to be risking capital, okay? And you will hear this explosion of thought life going on. Once you're in the trade, is managing the initial trade when it's going against you, and then the other element is managing the trade when it's actually going for you and you take profit too soon. Okay? And you can hear this internal dialogue going on in yourself. And here's what it's composed of. Internal dialogues always come in a pair. There's 2 sides to the argument. The first is this critical voice. It's what I call the inner critic in my work. And it's the one that judges you. It's the one that predicts doom. It's the one that criticizes you. It's the one that you never measure up. And if you have perfectionistic thinking, you've got to win every time, you're not good enough if you don't win, this is it. And it tempts you. It's not in your trading plan. Go for it anyway. It's a good-looking trade. On the other side of that is what I call an adapted voice, or as I get to know people better, I call the wounded child the orphan. Okay? Part of it is the doubter. And the doubter says, I can never win. Chicken Little. That's when you're sitting there and all you have is negative appraisal. No matter what, you see the doom in everything rather than the opportunity. The gambler, don't leave any money on the table. It may go higher. Bet everything on it. The perfectionist, I have to win every time to matter. If I lose, it's an indictment against me, and I know that I'm not good enough. The entitled one, I deserve to win. I'm smart. I know how to win. The con, this is when you lie to yourself. You're in self-deception. You just create all sorts of things. It's somebody else's fault. You blame the markets, you blame your spouse, you blame the weather, you blame the God. You're conning yourself, self-deception. The fraud, that's pretending to look good when you're not. That's when you go to a cocktail party and somebody asks you what you do and you say you're a trader and you start suddenly talking about how cool trading is when the truth is most of the time you're scared. The orphan, that's when you experience fear, whether or not it's fear of you feel like the fear of death has come upon you, or whether or not you feel as though you're going to miss out and you jump into something you shouldn't. The saboteur, this is when you put some good days, some good weeks together and you start thinking, oh my gosh, this is getting too good. Something's got to happen. And then it does. You blow yourself up. The alpha, and this is a particular problem with men coming out of American corporations, and they've been taught to win, and to make things submit. You bring that mentality into trading, and you discover very rapidly that the markets don't care. You can't beat them, and if you bring an attitude like that, what you'll discover is that you lose. Because ultimately in trading, what you're doing is you're looking to see what the market will give you, not what you will take from it. This is a dance of the internal dialogue that gets people into trouble. This is the dance of the internal dialogue that most people are stuck in when they have inconsistent results, particularly losing, but also when you're maybe marginally profitable. You've got really small contract size, you've got your sizing's really small, and you just can't seem to go out of the comfort zone. This is the conversation. My friends, you are born into these self-limiting beliefs. Every last billionth person in the world is hooked into this conversation. This is where our suffering comes from. This is where our stuckness comes from. And until you learn how to interrupt this, you do not get to what potentially is yours. Now, and what I do, if you really want to explore this thing, here's the way I ask people to look at thoughts. One is you write down, what does the thought say? Then you start asking the question, what is the emotion attached to this thought? Because you're going to notice, particularly with the historical dialogue, there's going to be criticism, temptation, and you're also going to be noticing fear. Okay? From there, what component of your internal dialogue is associated with that emotion? And you start naming them down on this list. Okay, I'm beginning to see. Okay, I know what that part of the self is now. Okay, I know who it is. Then you start asking, is this thought voice true to the conditions of your trading plan? And if you're sitting there looking at setups, looking for entry point, and you see everything match up, you've got plenty of confirmation, and you won't get in. What you're doing is the fear is holding you back. You're suddenly going through this process and saying, what is it? Don't get in. You could lose. What emotion is attached to thought? Fear. What component of your internal dialogue is associated with that emotion? Orphan. Okay, is the thought voice true to the conditions of your trading plan? No. The criterion for getting in the trade's there. This guy wants more confirmation than the Pope needs to get into eternity. So what you do is you say, okay, now I begin to understand that's not a healthy dialogue to bring to my trading. You have got to know the self. You have got to know the self. In fact, being mindful, though, of the historical dialogue is not enough. It's like being in therapy for years, and by the way, I'm a licensed therapist. I should know something like this. And knowing what the problem is, but not knowing how to change it. What's needed is a process of change, where your self-limiting beliefs are challenged and reorganized into a higher functioning that trades. This is the ticket, my friend. And this leads us to skill 4. And this is a powerful element that starts really being shown in the course that this is about, because this is when you start realizing game changer. And in here, what you've done here, let's take for one moment, let's just take a see here what's going on here. You started out with emotional regulation. Fear, your fears are calm. And that folds into mindfulness is awakened. And suddenly awareness becomes a tool. Okay? With that new tool, you discover internal dialogue. And you come to an understanding, a totally new understanding of the mind and self. Then that folds in to unlocking the potential living within you. Now you have got eyes to see, and you've got skills to use to help you with this thing called mind. And here's the first piece that you really need to get, is the mind is more like a trading committee. It's actually like a committee meeting, even a board meeting, where your beliefs are being traded. And in this board meeting, there are two different currents that are trying to take control of the company called you. One is highly destructive, one is very empowered. The real question is, who controls your trading committee? If you remain mindless, you're going to continue trading from self-limiting beliefs. But what you'll discover is this internal war has been going on inside your mind, inside this trading mind, for a very long time. The problem is you have been asleep at the wheel, but now you have developed tools from emotional regulation to mindfulness to beginning to understand the mind better, from internal dialogue to also recognizing there's more here than just the internal dialogue. There's a lot more here. And what you realize is thoughts in your mind give voice to your beliefs that drive your trading. I cannot emphasize that more strongly, my friends. Being mindless of the different voices made manifest by thought leads to fear-based and impulse-based trading. Disrupting the grip of fear opens you to the potential living within you. My friends, you have the power to reinvent the conversations going on inside the self in your trading committee, the way you perceive life. This is powerful. You don't have to be asleep at the wheel. You can become designer. You can become designer of the trading committee. You can become manager of the internal game. You begin to awaken the internal heroes within you, and this is how you transform your internal dialogue and possibility. And this is really interesting. I want to spend some time talking about this because this is the game-changing stuff right here. This is the meat. You find out what's already there but hidden from view. That's what mindfulness can do. My friends, in the same way that fear and judgment reside within you, so do discipline. So does patience. So does courage. So does impartiality. And I can guarantee you this, if you have a memory of when you stood firm in the face of uncertainty, you have the capacity to build that memory into a mindset to trade from. I actually teach how to do this in the course that I've been talking about. If you have ever been inspired by heroic character in a movie or real life, you have experienced that part of your own self waiting to be developed. For me, one time I was minding my own business and I was reading in a newspaper, and there was this guy, Nelson Mandela, and I was reading his inauguration speech. And this man, I'm going to tell you, understand, this man moved mountains. I have deep admiration. I want to read something to you. And here it is. This is him speaking. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of creation that is within us. It is not just in some of us. It's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. We are liberated from our own fear. Our presence automatically liberates others. This is a person who has found in the deepest moments of being in solitary confinement for 3 years, what happens, the Afrikaners thought they were going to break this man. What they did is they gave him the key to transforming himself. What he discovered in that small cell is that he was captain of his own destiny. And this is the power that lives within each of us. So, whether or not it's hero or whether or not it's memory, it's there and you can do it. And this is what can be found. In Carl Jung's work, he calls archetypes inherent, permanent, indestructible elements of strength embedded into the biology and psychology of our humanness, and they can be brought into awareness. In the same way that fear, orphan, is part of you, so is discipline, or what Jung would call ruler, discipline. Patience is there. That is what's called caregiver, the nurturer. So is courage. That would be what Carl Jung called warrior. So is impartiality. So absolutely essential for trading. That's sage. Discipline, patience, courage, and impartiality are the emotional states attached to the archetypal images of ruler, caregiver, warrior, and sage. And my friends, with work, these elements of self can be cultivated so that they are conscious aspects of the internal dialogue. This is where the power comes. You become conscious. You become conscious. So ultimately, in the work that I do, what I teach is this. Instead of mindlessly bringing the inner critic and orphan, fear and criticism and hopelessness and despair into your trading mind, you intentionally summon discipline, a ruler. You intentionally summon courage, the warrior. You intentionally summon impartiality, sage, and patience, a caregiver. This is the game changer. You have the emotional regulation skills to be able to keep fear regulated so that it doesn't overwhelm your ability to do this. You calm the orphan's fear down. It's scared it's going to lose. It's scared it's going to die. It can't tell the difference between losing a trade and being killed. You have to be able to show it the compassion, but at the same time, the setting of limits of courage and the discipline of ruler. That's what has to happen for the impartiality of sage to be able to trade trading plans. So, this is the game changer. But it has to be more than that. It has to be more than that. Because ultimately, the struggle has always been within you. Trading is the testing ground. And the real key is that you become intentional about what actually is showing up in your conversations of mind. By developing these parts of your personality, you change the composition of the committee of the mind that actually does your trading. You're able to confront your fears from a position of strength rather than weakness. Now notice what I said here. There's none of this affirmation stuff and pretending as if you're not going to have to confront fear. There's none of this stuff of where if you really get your mind right, there's no struggle. No, because you're human, there is going to be struggle. The difference is who shows up. There's always going to be uncertainty. However, if you bring a mindset of fear to the uncertainty, you can pretty much determine that you're going to continue losing or being small in your game of trading. If you bring a mindset of calm authority to your trading, you can pretty much figure that your game is going to go to another level. This is intentional. You transform your self-limiting beliefs into life-affirming beliefs. And your internal dialogue changes its interpretation of uncertainty from fear, okay, to risk management of probability. Completely different game. Completely different game. You have learned how to manage the fear, silence the mind, find the internal dialogue, disrupt it, find other more powerful elements within the self that allow you to trade from a peak performance state of mind, and then you become intentional about being able to do that. When I'm working with traders, they have a method from when they wake up in the morning to getting their minds right. They go through a ritual of being able to establish the mind. They check back into mind. They make sure that they've got their game A on board. That's what it takes to do it. So, if you grasp that it's the mindset that really is managing the uncertainty of trading, here are the two choices. You can be looking for the magic bullet, and you can stay in fear-based or impulsive-based mindsets that do your trading. You're going to continue mindless trading. You're going to continue doing the review and going, why did I do that? Why do I keep doing that? Okay? And you stay unaware of your potential. The inner critic stays the source of your self-limiting beliefs, and the adapted voice keeps reacting out of fear of impulse, and you stay inconsistent. That's where 95% of traders are going to stay. It doesn't have to be that way. When you recognize at the very beginning of this thing, what I said was that this is really for traders who have determined what stands in their way is themselves. And when you develop the courage to confront the self, what you can do out of that, you discover the mind's a much richer place than you ever imagined. And you can build a mindset. You learn how to have an emotionally regulated, calm, focused mindset. It produces mindful trading, where you become mindful of the trading committee and you have command over the internal dialogue of the trading committee. And what you end up in this box, what you discover is a ruler within yourself creates discipline. The inner critic's not allowed there, and the orphan sphere is going to be, it's not going to be thrown off the train, but it's going to be worked with, but it's not going to allow it to be controlling of the committee. And suddenly what happens is the warrior's courage there is to confront the inner critic. The patience of the caregiver is there to calm the fears of the orphans. Then there's passion for you to actually do this the change necessary. But then what's freed up is the impartiality of the sage that actually trades trading plan. And out of that, you become a much more competent trader. A much more competent trader. And my question is this, is that, my question is this. If you're here, it is clear that there's something about your psychology that is not working in your trading. The question is this. What are you willing to do about it? Do you keep hoping that things improve if you just simply grind it out? Or are you going to continue to kick yourself and beat yourself up? My friends, is that helping? Or are you going to continue to blame external factors for your performances? How has that worked so far? These solutions never work, and they keep you in self-limiting patterns based on your biology's short-term avoidance strategies. Or are you going to do something about it? Do you want to change? Do you have the motivation and urgency to do what's necessary to become the trader you could be? Do you have the passion for that? This is what it takes. So I'm throwing down the gauntlet here. If you really are ready to do something about your mindset that you bring to trading, then I have a course, Developing Trader State of Mind, that teaches you how to change. It actually teaches you the skills and tools you need to do that. It equips you to make that change possible. Now is the time to challenge your self-doubt and hesitation and to claim your potential. You've developed the methodology. Now build the mind to trade that methodology. This course is not about a talking head pouring more information into your brain. You're going to be experiencing it. You will learn skills. You will have homework. You will be taught how to use the tools of transformation. Today, right now, summon the courage to make the commitment to change. It's not going to happen by tweaking your system. It's going to happen by building the mindset that gives you the power to trade from a mindset of discipline, patience, courage, and impartiality. Sign up for this course. Here's the link. It's right here on this page. And what you'll also notice is that there's a discount coupon good to the 21st. It's the best deal in town. And my question is this. A guy recently, actually who's taking my personal course, which is a higher level thing, and he says, Randy, I looked at this and I said, $3,000. Well, this is $650 with coupon. And that's how many times have I lost that much money? If you teach me how to do this, this is the easiest thing in the world. I wish everybody could see this. Sign up for the course. I'm looking forward to working with you. I look forward to helping you build your trader state of mind. So, friends, you got some questions? Just type them right in and we'll get to them as they come. Here's a question as you guys are typing in. Here is one question that I get all the time. What is the difference between mindfulness and meditation? Actually, mindfulness is a kind of meditation. The difference is in mindfulness, you're becoming an observer of thought. You're watching it. You're not necessarily stopping thought. You're watching it, detaching from it, and realizing it's not your identity. And with mindfulness, you can use it as a tool to find other things that live in the totality of your awareness and bring them forward. Okay, have a question. Can one visualize success? Absolutely. If you go back to the very first slide that I gave, is that what happened is this actually is from a guy from Saudi Arabia, and what he was doing is he gave me a business card, and he said, I want to be worth my weight in gold. Actually, he said, I want to be worth a ton of gold. And I said, well, that's great that you can visualize that. However, just because you can visualize it doesn't mean that you become the person that allows that vision to show up. In trading, the one thing you can visualize all you want. The real question is, are you going to have the effort to be able to change the mindset that allows the vision to show up? When you take a look at Mike Tyson, to me, is one of the best examples. When he was 14 years old, his managers knew that he was going to be a world-class boxer. And what they did is they started visioning that, but what they did, though, is they started building him into the person that became the world's best boxer. They knew they had to embed the beliefs so that the vision would show up. So visualization is really important. I use it, but I don't get airy-fairy about it. I use it as a tool, as a skill. Okay. I would actually add a corollary to that. What's the difference between success visualization and my work? Well, the difference is this, is that in the same way that you visualize success, most people never ask the question, well, who do I need to become for that to show up? And usually it almost always has to do with confronting your fears. Because until you confront fear, you do not open the door to your potential. It's really that simple. Okay. And by the way, I also work individually with people, and on here, most people end up saying, well, I'm going to take the course, I'm going to check it out, or what happens is my motivation is the level where I want to do a direct consult with Randy to see if what he does. If that doesn't work, on my website, there is plenty of free stuff, from articles to my book. You can read a free introduction to it. There's lots of things from guided meditations all the way through. Go explore it. And if there's no other questions, I'm not seeing any other questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I have thoroughly enjoyed myself. I hope I have served you well. I hope I have given you an idea of how to build mind, how to work with mind, so that the promises that trading have can really become fruitful for you. Do you recommend any book to read on this subject? There's two. Everybody needs to read Martin Douglas. He shows you exactly how the state of mind needs to look like. The unfortunate problem is he doesn't tell you how to build that state of mind. My book, Mindful Trading, Mastering Your Emotions and the Inner Game, tells you about how to go about building it. And that's on my website, easy enough, and it's the only place it's available. I learned a long time ago that they take your money, and I'd rather get my own money. So, but those are the two books. Those are the two books that I truly recommend. Okay? So I thank you. I thank you very, very much. And have a great day, and may your trading prosper.